Visuals are like plot points, you know? You don't just sort of write a story not knowing where you're going. You've got specific points you're trying to emphasize. Same thing with color. Color makes you feel a certain way. You know, pink, reds, greens, purples, all have an emotional effect on human beings. So you want to direct that color in service of the story you're trying to tell.
You want the final product to be valuable. You want it to be something that you can be proud of and something that is valid as an art form.
As an art director, you try to make sure the game is consistent. You try to make sure that, you know, we're using color and shape and lighting to all enhance the particular story we're telling. We want to make sure that everything emphasizes, you know, sadness, happiness, excitement, danger, low points, high points.
What really puts it together is the concept. The concept art will determine the lighting and the general macro of the look. It'll give you a good framing of the level and give you the feel, which is probably the most important thing. The artist needs to get the feel of the level so he can put the appropriate details.
We always go to an amazing lost civilization that we've never seen before, and that's always the challenge to come up with. This one, it's Sandlantis. It's this lost Arabian city that's in the middle of nowhere, and the hard part there is coming up with something that looks believable, that we've never seen before, but also looks historically accurate.
We definitely have a lot of different inspiration, and it definitely comes from everywhere in the company. I don't think there's a single person who has managed to sit still for the whole duration of the game and just do their own thing. They'll always want to contribute to the rest of it.
You got to do a lot of research into the architectural style. What are the sort of specific idioms that make something look authentic to that area? The motifs, you know, what are they doing? What are the materials they're using?
The texture shader artists paint textures for the surfaces that you see in the game. They plug those into shaders, and then through the shader you can apply surface qualities like wetness or dryness or whatever you need.
My team's responsible for all the weapons, props, vehicles. Anything that moves in the game is not a character, falls underneath the technical art / prop artist team.
We kind of take the world that's given to us and try to add motion to it, try to add the subtleties that really sort of make an environment pop. Or take a collapse and add the dust, the debris, the volumetrics, and a little more of the bang to it. Kind of like the frosting on the cake.
Oh man, that was close, huh?
Amy does a lot of research. The cool thing about the games is they're based in history and reality. So she always comes up with something that is real, authentic, exists in the world in terms of legend. And then we have to come up with what it looks like.
We do a lot of research, and hopefully it's tangible in the game when people play it, that the devil's in the details, and a lot of us are pretty kind of OCD, anal retentive, whatever you want to call it, about sort of perfecting the details of things, and that we want it to be right. You know, if we're going to have a foreign language in the game, we want it to be correct. If we're going to say this level takes place in one area of the world, we do a ton of research to make sure that it's accurate.
She holds us pretty true to history. So you can't just go crazy and like come up with all sorts of fanciful stuff. It has to be rooted in something authentic. So that's the challenge in terms of making these civilizations that look incredible and amazing, but everything in there is based on something we've done research about.
We use film, we use whatever kind of reference we can get our hands on to see, you know, how other people represented this before, and what do we want to do differently? You know, what are our favorite elements of that? What are the things that, you know, are like those key moments, you know?
We tend to go a little bit nuts in terms of gathering reference, in terms of talking about it, in terms of watching movies. We even had some of our team sliding down sand dunes in the desert to figure out just what that would look like.
It was a very, very crazy, fun trip, but it was fascinating and really actually inspiring to see that when you step in this really soft sand, the sand flowing down the ridge actually looks so liquid, almost kind of equivalent to mercury. Like there's a little bit of viscosity to it, but it actually looks like a liquid. And so we just went out there with our cameras, got sand everywhere, and just pulled in a dozen hours of amazing reference of us diving down the dunes, of us running up and down the dunes and crawling the different ways like you would actually move if you were tired, because it was 114 degrees outside and we were exhausted.
After collecting ridiculous amounts of reference, we tend to just have at it, in the sense that let's just start building things. There's definitely a degree of, okay, let's figure out the big shapes and let's figure out the big picture. But we are detail obsessed. So we sometimes go right for the details. And that sometimes isn't so bad a thing.
Putting the details in the environment is actually a Naughty Dog quality, almost to a fault, you know, and you know, we actually have to stop ourselves from just putting too much.
I assume Rich talked a lot about how just in depth he went to making sure that the London pub was completely authentic. And I can't say I was part of that. It would have just been just a few too many British people in the kitchen, if you will, had we all kind of ganged up and tried to create it as authentically as possible. But I certainly did witness that, and it's really nice to see whenever a Naughty Dog gets that into the details.
I was particularly concerned about people in the UK feeling like this was a real place, somewhere that maybe they recognised if they travelled to the East End of London. So that was a fairly easy sell for me with my teammates.
Typical bloody Yank, all talk.
It felt like we'd already kind of hit the peak. How do we beat that? How do you beat so many Game of the Year awards? Like, do you even try? And yes, you definitely try. Whether you succeed or not probably isn't so important.
Everybody has done such an amazing job, and you walk through the studio and you look at any monitor and you got to take a double take. And you wait, what level is that? Who's working on that again? Because it all looks so great.
Uncharted is probably the most exciting IP I've ever worked on because of just the improvements in each iteration, just the improvements from 1, 2, and 3. The team continues to evolve and just get better. And whether that's just people that are just working really hard to create better content, or the new blood that we're bringing in every iteration that adds a new flavor to the DNA of the company and just puts it to the next level, is just amazing. I can't wait for the next following games that we're going to be working on.
Are you my enemy, American?
Drake. My name is Drake.